Glenn, thank you very much for allowing me to come into your house and to talk to you today. Are you from Kelly, or where's your hometown?
That's Scalia is my hometown. I was born out in the Somme country, out here in Woodrow Township. That's south of Somme.
Now, the farm you're at right now, have you been here very long at this farm?
Yeah, better right around 65 years or better.
Wow, okay. Back in the 1940s, did you enlist in the military or were you drafted
I was drafted.
into the Army?
Yep,
And you were living where at the time?
out in the Somme country.
Okay. Do you remember what year that was?
1944 when I went in the service.
Oh, things
In
were really popping
September.
then.
Huh?
Things were really popping then, 1944.
Yeah.
Okay. When you were summoned with the draft, where did you go for your basic training at?
Well, we went down to Fort Snelling from Bemidji. We rode down to Fort Snelling and hung around there for a week or so. And then we was loaded on the train and shipped down to Camp Hood, Texas.
That was your basic training camp,
Yep,
Camp Hood.
Yep.
And how many weeks were you there?
Well, was there till about the first week or so in January of 45.
Well, the next step now, once you finished basic training, where was your next stop?
Well, then we got sent back home for a week's delay en route. Then we loaded on and went back down to the cities, and there we was railroaded down to Kansas City, and from Kansas City we was shipped out to some place there in California, north of Salinas and Monterey.
Would that be Fort Ord by any chance? I don't know my military post.
Fort Ord, that's a name. That's I remember hearing that, but
Okay.
anyway, from that place, I don't know how long we stayed there, but then we was loaded on a train and we was shipped up to Fort Lawton, Washington. That's on the Sound up there in Seattle on the Columbia River Sound there.
Were you given any specialized training after you finished your basic training?
No.
Okay.
All it took was basic infantry replacement.
Now you're in Washington.
Yep.
For how long?
Oh, just a few days there. And we loaded on a ship then in one afternoon, and that evening after dusk we took off and headed out the Sound and out in the Pacific. And we ended up then in Hawaii.
Well, that sounds like a nice place to be for a while.
Well, it was for probably a couple weeks, if I could remember right. I had a cousin stationed out on John Rogers Air Strip out there. I got a chance to go out and see him.
How'd you even know he was there?
Oh, he had mother and dad living out east of Kelly or here, and you know how it was, exchanged.
Now you're in Hawaii for a couple of weeks. Then where do you go?
Well, then we went to, that island in the Guam area there, the big island in, what's the name of it? No, that ain't in the Guam.
I can't think of it either.
At Tinia, I was in the hospital on that big island there for a week.
Wait a minute. How'd you end up in the hospital?
Oh, they fell us out one morning and they told us to turn right face. They was going to march us off, and I heard them say right face, and the next thing I knew I was going down. Well, I passed out a little bit because the next thing I knew there was 4 guys had a hold of me, one under this arm, one under this arm, and one on each leg, carrying me up a hill to the medics. And they loaded me in an ambulance there and hauled me down to a hospital there, and on that big island. And that, from that hospital, I could see the island of Tinia, where the B-29s was taken off to go bomb Japan.
Okay, now, what had happened to you? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I missed breakfast that morning, overslept. And I don't know, just, God, they had a building, not a building, just a roof, a tent roof strung out there for a long way. We had about 800 guys underneath that.
But they didn't tell you what made you pass out?
No, they stuck me down there in the hospital, and
How long were you in the hospital?
oh, about a week, I guess. Then I had to walk up a little hill to a doctor, and he discharged me and talked a little loud about them making me walk up that hill while they didn't haul me up there. But
Okay, now you're hospital for a week. You get out. Where do you go next?
back to that there tent where we was before. When I got back there, it was full, but I didn't know a soul because they was all new guys in there. All the guys I knew took basic training with down in Camp Hood was shipped out.
Where did they go?
They ended up on Okinawa.
And what happened to you next? Now you're in this tent. Where do you go next?
Oh, I got loaded on a ship with all the rest of the guys, shipped up to Okinawa, and we got up there and we had to crawl over the side of a ship down into the little landing boats.
Yeah.
And they took us ashore and dumped us off, and we marched up to a hill there, the side of a hill, and they said, there's holes there, crawl in a hole, find yourself a hole and crawl into it. Next day they fell us out in a big bunch there, right there by them, and they didn't call off my name. They was calling off guys' name. I knew who I followed by the name. I didn't know him, and I knew whose name followed me, and they never called my name off. And when they got done, they said, you guys' names that never got called off, they said, we'll get a hold of you in a day or two. And down here in the corner, there was about 10, 12 guys standing kind of in a bunch down there that never got called off. And I was up here on the side of this hill all by myself.
Was there fighting still going on in Guam at the time?
No, not in Guam, no.
Okay.
No. And so when we...
What happened to you then later? They didn't call your name off. You stayed for a while. Then where did you go next?
Well, I got sent out with these guys down here. They'd taken recon training, I guess, and they took me in front of an officer there, and he asked me a few questions, and he said, I don't think we can use you, he said. So then they took me up to where the division headquarters was, and they had an MP standing outside the gate. They told me, you stay there by him. And so I sat there by him, and while I was sitting there by him, I seen him hauling the dead guys in on the backs of 2.5-ton trucks like we used to haul pulpwood to town here. And right across the road, they was making a cemetery there. And they had a bunch of guys down in the cemetery there. And,
Was that because there was still fighting going on?
oh yeah,
Islands?
yeah, a lot of,
On Guam.
well, no, on
Other
Okinawa.
islands. Okay.
We
So how
were-
long were you on Guam? Where'd you go next?
Well, I wasn't on Guam. I was on this other island by
okay.
Tinia. That's when we left that island. We went to Okinawa as infantry replacements.
So there was still fighting going on in
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And after I got there by that MP, that nighttime come, then they took me up to Division Motor Pool, and there was a guy sleeping there, staying there in a old building there, and they said, you crawl in there, there's cots in there. They said you can sleep in there, sleep on one of them. But that was a kind of a good deal. They had 3 hot meals a day, that division headquarters there, you know, for the motor pool and the rest of the division head. So I stayed there for, I don't know how many days, 4 or 5 days, I guess. And then they come along and one day and then grab your barracks bag. They said, you're going up to the 382nd Infantry Regiment. And that was a regiment of the 96th Deadeye Division. So I got hauled up there, and I don't know just what happened there, but I was assigned there to a platoon there, and I don't know, I wasn't there very long, and I got something on my face here, some kind of, and I went to the medics with that, because I put some iodine on it one night before I went to sleep, and God, the next morning I woke up and it was a pinner down here in my neck, and I went to the medics and they sent me down to a hospital there. And I got down to that hospital, and it didn't take many days that then they had it cured up. But we stayed in the hospital, and I met a guy from Missouri that was in L Company of this regiment that I was in, the 382nd, only I was in battalion headquarters. And so we got to talking, and he got married before the division come over, and his wife had a baby girl, and she was writing him letters and sending him pictures. And finally they were going to head us back up to our battalion, and on the way up that night, they were driving with night lights on, and the trucker run off the edge of the ditch, and we tipped over on our side, and out the back end of that 2.5-ton truck, we went rolling down the hill. But we got back up and crawled back up there, and they took us on up to the hill on another truck, and we stayed there overnight. And then it was set back there and got in this company, this what they called, oh God, I can't think of the name, but we carried supplies up to our rifle companies, like if they wanted M1 ammunition, we carried up M1 ammunition, or if they wanted hand grenades or or mortar shells, whatever they wanted. That was a job. And we had squad leader would lead the way. He carried the rifle, and the rest of us guys, that was, how many was in there? 3, 4, 5 of us, and we carried the stuff by hand up there to the rifle company that ordered it. We had 3 rifle companies that and they was trying to go up that last hill there on Okinawa where it went pretty like that up, you know. And they had on the right end of it, they had a place where they could open up big doors and they could wheel out a piece of artillery shell or an artillery rifle and take shots, half a dozen shots, and they rolled it back in and shut the doors so they couldn't get a reading on them. And they, through this hill, ever so far, they had a window about 3-4 feet long and 1.5 feet, I suppose, high or so. Yeah,
When you were out there, your primary job was to get munitions to the frontline men?
Yep.
Did you have to get involved with as a rifleman at all?
Nope, not there, but we had to pull guard duty every night because we was camped right along a trail where they'd haul the supplies up as far as they'd go. You know, we was behind the hill, and
But you know, at what point do you leave the island? You stay on the island for a long period of time?
Yeah, we stayed on there and set up a tent, and we got to sleep in a tent and washed our clothes and this and that.
Did you end up as a rifle company on the front lines at all?
Nope.
Okay.
I was in battalion, 3rd Battalion headquarters
Okay.
of the 382nd, and I got in what they called the service platoon, and that we carried
Right.
C rations and K rations up to the line companies.
So how long were you on the island? Wow.
Oh, we was on there till the island fighting was done, and then we loaded on a LST one day, and we went out, passed through the submarine net gate out there they had, and when we went out there, we went by a heavy cruiser, and the boys on there, they swung their 3 old big guns, you know, they had on them, and pointed them at us, because there was a whole bunch of Army guys up on deck gawking, you know. And but we got outside of the deck, outside of the gate, and by God, we turned around and we had to go back in to shore again, to the dock. And I don't think we was there much over an hour at the most, can't remember. Anyway, the next time we went out, Jesus, everybody in there was heading for that submarine gate. We got out of that and got out, and the wind was coming up, and we had the waves as high as this ceiling. And God, you get up on top of them. We was loaded in an LST, and God, you could see every ship around you. And here come that old heavy cruiser out, and it was pouring the coal to it to get going, get out of the way, you know. And there was 10, 12 guys hanging on the back railing of it. And God, I see that thing take into a big wave come in there. It didn't go up on top of it. It went through it. And when it cleaned out, come out, got out sight and got away. Looked back here. Here was one guy's life jacket here, and over there was the guy. One of them got washed off board on that. But we never stopped to pick him up because we was ahead of him a little
So what
bit.
happened to the guy? Any idea?
Got no idea.
Okay, now
There-
where was the boat taking you to? Where were you going?
Well, that was a good question. We didn't know. But we ended up back down in Leyte. They dropped the bomb while we was out there on the ocean. The atomic bombs was dropped while we was on our way to Leyte. And we got down to Leyte, we refueled there, and some of the guys had regular Filipino money, and they'd throw it over, and there was a half a dozen little Filipino boys around there. And Jesus, they'd dive down there and pick that up, and they'd come up and, oh, they was happy as everything, you know.
So how long were you on Leyte?
Oh, not very long. We just pulled in there and got fuel, and then we backed out of there and took off, and then we ended up down on Mindanao. Is there an island there by that?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Anyway, we ended up down there, and we got off, and there we got to go to a place where the Navy Seabees had been. Some Navy Seabees been. God, that was heaven. That was tents. They had one and water showers, and not very far from the mess hall. Yeah.
So now the bomb was dropped, and they're slowly taking you back home.
No. After the bomb was dropped and we was down there on that island and sitting there waiting for something to do, I guess, they come up with the 90, I was in the 96th Infantry Division at that time, and they said that division was going back to the States because they'd fought on that island, and we thought we was in second heaven, but they come out with a point system. They had to have so many points to get back to the States, and we was just kids. I think maybe I turned 19 out on the ocean heading for Okinawa. Well, I had 12, probably 12 or 15 points, something like that, and we got loaded on a boat and one day, and Jesus Christ, that evening we come up to Manila, and we didn't have nothing to eat all day. And about 2:30 that night, they brought a boat out with some groceries, some C rations or K rations, you know. Yeah, then we got unloaded the next day, I guess, and then we joined the 87th Infantry Division that was out of Manila, north of Manila a ways, 10, 12 miles. There I joined the division headquarters, got assigned to division headquarters, and I had to ride down with the trucker that was going to some, like the bakery, the bakery on the island and places where they picked up supplies. One day I went down to get a load of bread, had a semi and a couple 6x6s, and went in, and the guy in the bakery come there, and what kind of an outfit you got up there, he said. I said, I don't know, just got there. I said, I don't know. And, well, he said the general was down here yesterday, he said, and he broke open a piece of toast, his bread, and inside of it there was a cigarette butt. And So you know what that means.
All right, now, at what point do you get to go home?
Well, we got our independence over there in the Philippines on the 4th of July in 1966, or 46. And that was July. Then there was August. Oh, about the end of August, first part of September, we got loaded on a boat to come home.
So they kept you there for a while.
Yeah.
Is that because you didn't have enough points?
Yep.
And what they have you doing? What were you there for a year then?
Oh,
year?
pretty close to a year,
So
I suppose.
What they have you doing then for all this time?
Oh, I was working in the division headquarters outfit there where, like I say, rode down with the truckers to
Okay.
get bread or,
Okay, run errands and so forth.
yeah.
So the closest you got to combat then was, you were lucky that you were taking supplies up to the guys on the front line.
Yeah,
You didn't have
that,
to be a part of that.
yep. Yeah, then we, like I say, we had to pull guard every night.
Now, when you were doing all this, did they assign you a rifle to have to carry all the time? Or you
Well,
didn't?
no, they never assigned me a rifle, but I seen one sticking in the ground one day. It had a bayonet on it, and it was stuck upside down. And I grabbed it because there was nobody around there. And I didn't have any, so it was an M1. And it worked. Yeah.
So you carried that for a while, that M1?
That was, I carried that. It stayed in the hole where we slept at night. And
That had to add some comfort feeling. What if the enemy snuck over the lines at night? You had no protection.
well, at nighttime we had the rifle,
Yeah.
and somebody was pulling guard every hour, and then somebody else took over for an hour, and then the next hole guy got in there and took over an hour.
Okay, you had it right. All right, now you're on the way home, and you're going into California to embark there. Where did
Yep.
the ship take you? Whereabouts?
Oh, the
LA?
Golden Gates.
Okay, about under the Golden Gate,
Yep,
L.A. What's the name of the town then? I
San
forgot.
Francisco.
Hmm?
It's San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay.
Yep.
Now you're off the ship. But are you still in the army? Where did you get discharged at from?
Fort Sheridan, Illinois.
So you had to take a train from San Francisco
Yep.
to there.
Yep.
Got your discharge, and then a train from there to where?
Well, from Fort Sheridan, we got our discharge, and we had to go back to Chicago to catch the train. And then we went up to what's the name I said that there.
Minneapolis.
No, we went to Minneapolis, but we went up the coast of the lake, along the lake to.
Superior, Duluth.
Well, no, it was in
Chicago?
Illinois.
Oh,
It's a big city in Illinois, north of Chicago. Anyway, we made a stop there, and then we headed for the cities. And I and 3 other guys was going to go to the club car on there. They had a club car. And we got back there to the club car, and every seat was taken. So there was a car, another car behind it was all glass between the club car and this car. And we went in there and sat down. There was some nice cushions in there. We sat down there waiting for a seat to get empty to go grab. And this is pretty quick, a big porter come along, and he said, "You boys can't be sitting in here," he said. There was 2 or 3 women sitting in the other end of that car. Well, we told him, we said, we waiting for an opening to get in there. Well, he said, "Come along with me," he said, "see what I can do." We went in there, and he seen a man and a lady at a table, and he asked them if two of us could sit down there at that table by him. And yeah, they said okay. And he took the other two guys and went down a little bit further, and there was a man and a lady there having eats or drinks, whatever. And he asked them if they could be set there, and they said yeah. Hell, it was the best night we ever had. Never cost us a cent. The
Okay.
man and the lady bought us.
Bought you dinner.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
when did you end up in Minneapolis then?
Well, that night on that train.
And that's where you got discharged in Minneapolis?
No, got discharged in Fort Sheridan.
All right.
They mailed our discharge to us later because we got a month because we never got no furlough for 30
Right,
days.
you got a month of leave
Yeah,
burned up yet.
we got paid for that month.
All right. Now, how'd you get back to Bemidji then?
Good question. I think I had my sister living down there out in Spring Lake Park, and her and her husband, I think, hauled me up to
To this place here or the other farm?
the other place over west of town here.
Okay. Now you're home. Now you're back on the farm. Things are back to normal again. Have you ever got together with any of the guys you served with?
Oh yeah, I and the wife went down one time to southern Minnesota and seen a feller by the name of Gerald Crooks. And knew him good when we
Well,
took.
did the group ever have a reunion at all?
No,
Okay.
not that I ever.
All right. So now they're back to home. Everything's back to normal. You were one of the lucky ones that didn't have to go on the front lines then.
I didn't have to stay up there. I went up there a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dropped your supplies off.
helped the medics carry the dead or the wounded back down.
Well, that has to be done by somebody.
Yeah,
Glenn, I want to thank you for talking to me today. I think your memory is incredible of the details of what took place that many years ago. A lot of people I've talked to can't get the details out, so you're lucky to have a memory that's good.
yeah. I wished I could think of that big island in the.
Saipan?
Yeah, was it Saipan, that island in Guam and Tinia? That group. There was 3 islands there.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're done. We're wrapped. I'm happy. Thank you very much
Well,
for talking to me.
uh,
Goodbye.
yeah.